If you're anything like me, then transfers are pretty much the best thing about Football Manager, and a huge part of that is finding those bargains. Those players that you can bring in for cheap and either stick them straight in your team and just go and win everything with them, or sell them on for a huge profit, financing and bankrolling the rest of your world domination, right? Well, today I'm going to bring you my favourite bargains that I've already found in FM24. There are loads of them. Today I'm going to bring you 15, and I hope I'm going to help you bring in some really good, cheap players for your teams. Let's get into it. Hello, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another FM24 video. I hope that the start of the game has been kind to you. I hope you're winning games. I hope you're enjoying the beta, or should I call it the early access, to be correct. In this first week of the game, I have been looking for bargain players, and today I'm going to bring you my favourite ones. And now, before we get into them, I just want to say, in terms of what I mean by a bargain, I'm looking for players that are cheaper than you'd expect them to be and still pretty budget. I've kept all of our players that we're going to show you today in today's video less than £10 million, but I do understand that that might not be a bargain for everybody. There's going to be somebody watching this video thinking, I can't sign this player for Wickham, waste of time. And in which case, sorry to that one particular person. But saying that, I have tried to do a bit of a variety. There are some players that are around about £1 million or less, and there are some that are about £5 million. The most that they can be, though, is £10 million. That's what I'm thinking of as a budget, as I think most people playing the game right now, you're playing with those teams like Premier League teams, usually, right? I know that there will be exceptions to that, though. But I did just want to clear up what a bargain is before we get started. Oh, and speaking of bargains, just to let you know that you could pick up a bargain of your own whilst watching this video by clicking the link in the description, which is my tracked link to Fanatical, which is where I purchased Football Manager 2024 from. And if you do so, you get about £10 off the Steam price, and also I get a little kickback as well from that. So if you are thinking about picking up Football Manager 2024, consider doing so using the link that is in the description. That was absolutely seamless, wasn't it? Also, before we do start going through this bargains list, please do subscribe to the channel, leave a like on the video if this is useful for you, and put your bargains in the comments down below. Let's have a look at the first bargain that's on my list. I've actually also created a shortlist, as you can see here, so that we'll be going through these players. I will make this shortlist available on the Patreon as well, just FYI. Let's start at the top. We're going to start with a player that you might be thinking, is he a bargain? Surely he wants ginormous wages, and I'm here to tell you, no, he doesn't. It's David De Gea, of course, on a free transfer after his release from Manchester United in the summer, and you need to be quick if you're going to pick him up. This is a free transfer. Most of the players on this list aren't free transfers, but I did want to point out David De Gea because despite him costing nothing, he's just going to have to give him a contract. His wages aren't as high as you think they might be. On my Newcastle beta save, which we're streaming over on Twitch and putting videos out here on YouTube, I saw him move to Sturm Graz on about 20k a week. So I wanted to point him out because you are going to need a backup goalkeeper on this year's game. Have you noticed that your goalkeepers can get injured and injuries are just rife? There are so many of them, which is kind of realistic, but maybe a touch over the top. So having a really good backup goalkeeper, or even replacing your keeper, making him the backup, maybe going for someone like David De Gea, could be really useful. You can get him. If we ask his agent here, he should be interested. I'm Brighton, by the way, in this save file, just to show you what's possible. He wants between £42,000 and £51,000 per week. I think with maybe appearance fees, because he's not going to play every game, you can get that cheaper than that. And I don't think that's as outrageous as it could be. Considering he was on about 300k a week at United, I think it's a really good option there, a cheap goalkeeper to pick up. Next on my list is a player that also has a contract expiring nature to the deal that you could do, and that is Gaetano Castrovilli at Fiorentina. Now, the reason that he is a bargain is because his contract is expiring at the end of the first season, so he's still contracted now, so you will have to buy him. But what a player that you can pick up for between £550,000 and £7.8 million. At the top end of that is right at the top of my bargain criteria. However, just looking at what a player he is, he's like so well-rounded, could fit into any Premier League midfield. I think you could sign him for the top teams and he'd still be a useful squad player for you there. And the fact that you can get him for less than 10 million, for between 450 and 8 million, and his wages aren't that ridiculous. Look, 32k to 40k. What a player to add to your transfer targets list right now. Gaetano Castrovilli is my second bargain. And my third one is another one that I think can go straight into teams that are playing in the Premier League. Slightly more expensive. It's Facundo Torres, who plays for Orlando City. Now, the reason I put him into this list is because at the start of the game here, he's wanted by loads of Premier League teams and AC Milan and Napoli, showing you just what a good player he is. He's so well, like he's so good already. 15 dribbling, 14 finishing, 16 first touch. This trio of attributes here, always so important. He's also quick, 15 acceleration, 14 pace. If you want to play him on any of the attacking midfield spots here from the right hand side because he's left footed, or out and out winger on the left hand side, what a player. Yes, it's slightly more expensive, but I think you're looking at a player that's going to be valued at 40-50 million pounds as soon as you sign him. And you can get him for between 7.6 and 11.5 million pounds. Probably a little bit more than that. I do think he just about makes it onto my bargains list. Don't worry, there's going to be some other cheaper ones as well, though. But Facundo Torres, a really good option to sign right at the start of your saves, I think. If you can afford him, go and get him. Another attacking player now, and one that's slightly more obscure. It's Alexander Aravena, who is a striker that plays in Chile. A little bit of a disclaimer on him. You are going to, I think, need the Chilean league to be loaded, or at least South American players to be loaded in, because he plays in Chile for Universidad Católica, to try and say that correctly. He is 20 years old. He's got caps for the Chilean national team. He's between 3.3 and 6.4 million pounds. Again, it is a bargain in the grand scheme of things. I do also appreciate that's not like 10k, which maybe you're looking at. He is, though, also wanted by decent top-level teams like RC Lens, Udinese, Rants, and then also Al Fateh in Saudi Arabia. Again, I think that just gives a little bit of credentials to how good that he could possibly be, and the fact that this would be a bargain. Doesn't have a release clause, but they do want between £3.3 million and £6.6 million, and he only wants about 20k a week in terms of wages. Again, I think if you bring him in, he'll score goals for you and could definitely be a bargain. He's on my list. Next up, Toma Basic in at number, is it number 4? I'm not sure. Who's keeping count? Not me. In at about number 4 is Toma Basic, who is transfer listed at the start of my game here for Lazio. Now, I'm not sure he will always be transfer listed. He might well be, but remember there are different game modes. I am using the original game mode in this particular save to show you this. If you've gone for real world or your world, you might see that there's a slight discrepancy. However, I still think he'd be a bargain. £1.9 million though for this guy here. Very well rounded, almost a circle when you have a look at his polygon on the side here. Can play in a number of different positions. 26 years old, so you're going to get a lot more years out of him. And he's out of favour here at Lazio. £1.9 million. If I ask the agent, they're going to want £1.9 million for him. And he wants about 27 to 33k in wages. A bargain. 6'2", big, strong midfielder that has really nice traits, actually. Gets forward whenever possible. Reminds me that he might be a really useful CM attack. What's his finishing? It's not too bad at 12 either. I'm told reliably that CM attack might well be back for this year's game. Have a look at Toma Basic. See if he fits in with your plans. Could be a bargain for you. After Basic, I've gone for Sverre Halset Naipan, a very popular player, I think, in FM24. If you're not signing him, where have you been? 16 years old, one of the best WONDERKIDS on the game. He was definitely in my WONDERKIDS video that we did, but I wanted to include him in this too because he's so cheap and could genuinely become a world beater. He starts at Rosenborg, playing in Norway, which I think that makes him gettable, and he's between 2.8 and 5.4 million pounds. Just 16 years old. Bring him in now and then save loads of money in the future. You're going to either be able to sell him for a humongous fee, or he'll go into your team and be one of your best players. He is got great potential, really, really good. It could again be one of those players that you play as like a CM attack. I'm convincing myself that this is back for this year, and he could definitely grow into this role, I think. Either-footed as well, which is always nice, isn't it? He definitely makes my list. Next up is Alexei Miranchuk. Pretty well-known player, but I've noticed at the start of the game, he's transfer listed. Again, I will say this might not always be the case depending on which game mode you've gone for and whether, after the update, this might change. But he plays for Atalanta and he's transfer listed for £6 million. I think in terms of number 10s, if you actually go and do a search by attributes for players that play as an attacking midfielder, this guy's right at the very top of the list. And, if you filter out all the players, he's got like 15s and 14s basically across the board for all of the attributes that are needed to play attacking midfielder. And he's £6 million, 27 as well. So you've got a few more years of him left yet. He's on 46k a week. Again, he's wanted by loads of really good teams. So this gives him a little bit of a pedigree. Ajax in there, Marseille, West Ham, Forest, Wolves, Zenit St. Petersburg, Crystal Palace, all want to bring him in because he'd be a starter for them. For £6 million, I don't think you can go wrong. He would want 37 to 45k in wages as well. I think that's pretty doable. And for a really, really good player, even maybe as a stopgap before you go and bring in like a young player, maybe you sign Moranchuk, use him in your team until you've got Naipan ready to start. Something like that, I think could be a really good way to do it. Definitely makes my bargains list for about £6 million. Next up, another one who's kind of similar to Moranchuk, actually, in that he's already Premier League ready. He is 25 years old, Patrick Berg, 4.2 to 6.2 million pounds. So you're looking at maybe 5 million for him. He's a model citizen, tireless defensive midfielder who I think would be great in like a defensive role. Maybe if you want to play him as like an anchor. He's got the brilliant positioning and teamwork. His tackling good at 13. Great anticipation. He just would sit in front of your defense and be so solid. So solid. He plays for Bodo Glimt in Norway, and he's wanted again by Premier League Wolves and Al Shabab in Saudi Arabia. I think you can go a lot. You could do a lot worse than picking up Patrick Berg for about 5 million if you are trying to bring in some bargains. Definitely makes my list, Patrick Berg. Let's do a genuine bargain next of all. It's Sam Curtis, a 17-year-old right back who plays in Ireland for St Pat's Athletic. He is already pretty developed for a 17-year-old. He's got 10s or more in every attribute needed to be a complete wing-back. 17 years old, I'm going to keep saying it, but his value is between 50 and 500,000 pounds. I was going to say per week, but not per week. 50 and 500,000 pounds, a genuine bargain. If you want a backup right back, maybe for a Premier League team, a Championship team, I think you could do a lot worse than Sam Curtis. There's a cheaper bargain for you, a player that would cost less than £1 million. I think he looks really good, doesn't he? Again, 17. Let's keep it cheap again with a player that I am definitely going to try and sign in the Newcastle save after having a look for him in this save here. It's Asan Udraogo, who was brilliant in last year's game, I will say. A bit of a wonder kid last year. But this year, because of Schalke's relegation to the second division in Germany, is available and sometimes transfer listed. Transfer listed for £6.25 million. He will definitely develop into one of the best midfielders on the game, especially under your watch. He could do it all. He's 6'3". He's just a beast in the midfield. For 6 million, you could do an awful lot worse than signing this guy. Definitely a bargain if you could afford that 6 million or so pounds for him. I'm going to go with a really obvious one next. It's Valentin Barco. If you've not signed him, I'm genuinely surprised. I've signed him already in the Newcastle save, and I'm going to claim this one because I signed him last year in the beta save. So I've been on Valentin Barco for a long time, and it feels like his stock is only continuing to rise. He is already wanted at the start of this game by Manchester City, linked to them in real life, scoring and doing all sorts, playing brilliantly for Boca Juniors in real life. And you can get him for less than 8 million. For less than 8 million for a player that can start in the Premier League, I think, as a left back and then go on to be one of the best left backs in the world. 18 years old. If you can tempt him to come to your team rather than going to teams like Manchester City or AC Milan, then definitely try and sign Valentin Barco. I don't know if I'm actually showing you anything new with this because I feel like everybody is on this, but what a player he becomes. What an option at the start if you can get him. Another pretty cheap one next. Nikola Kavlina. Not brought you too many goalkeepers. This guy, if you want somebody as your backup, as we talked about before with those goalkeeper injuries, Nikola Kavlina could be a great option. 21 years old, which is very young for a goalkeeper. He plays for Lokomotiva Zagreb in the Croatian top league and will cost you less than 2 million, probably less than 1 million once you've done some negotiating. 6'4" goalkeeper, will only develop from here and already pretty well rounded. He started at Dinamo and has moved to Lokomotivo on a free. I think he looks great. He's got a 1 under-21 cap as well. Kavlina, cheap, good option as a backup goalkeeper. I'm going to have a look at him myself, I think. And let's stay with the goalkeepers whilst we're here. I'll give you an alternative to Kavlina in Plamen Andreev, who's an 18-year-old Bulgarian. If 21 was young for a keeper, 18 is younger, isn't it? 6'2" Bulgarian keeper at Levski Sofia, between 2 million and 4 million pounds. Could definitely be a backup. Could definitely be a bargain. And we're getting into the last couple here, and the last couple are actually players that I did include in my Wonder Kids list. We did 100 Wonder Kids in one video, and I am wondering, by the way, there's so many more of these bargains that I could bring you. If there is interest, would you like to see 100 bargains in one video? If that is a thing you'd like to see, make sure you comment it down below. And if we get enough comments, maybe I'll go and make that. It does take a little bit of time to, compile it all together, but there are so many of these that maybe we could do that. Let me know in the comments down below. Next up, though, Lucas Bergvall, a very good central midfielder who starts in Sweden, which means that you could potentially get him for a bargain. He's not actually wanted by anybody else yet. I think that's because he's only just moved to his current club, which is Djurgårdens in the top division in Sweden. He moved for 550k, but keep an eye on him because maybe January first season, or if you could, pay enough, you might be able to tempt him to get him in now. Often you can loan players and then sign them for a decent price actually in the future. Keep an eye on Lucas Bergvall though, because he does develop and can develop into one of the best midfielders on the game. He's 17 and is already this good look with a value that's about 1.1 million. There's definitely potential for a bargain there. That's why he's made my list. And then my final player in my list of bargains is this man here. Another that was on my WONDERKIDS list. It's Esteval. He starts in the under 20s team for Palmeiras in Brazil at SEP, as if you've not got the name fix on your game. But this guy can become one of the best number 10s in the world. I've said this about a few players, haven't I, about becoming one of the best in the world. But that's why they're bargains, because you can buy them for less than $1 million, turn them into genuine world beaters, and you're going to make so much money. This guy will take a bit of nurturing, will need maybe a couple of loans and playing in your under 18s team, but eventually you will see him flourish. Esteval in behind the strikers, maybe go and pair him with somebody like, I'm going to show you another player that was on my WONDERKIDS list here. Somebody like Luis Guilherme, who I also really like. These two together, one on the right-hand side, one in the middle. You've got a 17-year-old and a 16-year-old that both become really, really, really good. More expensive for Guilherme. That's why he's not a bargain, but what a player he is. And that is my list of bargains. If I go and show you the shortlist here, there are 15 of them on there. Just to recap, De Gea, Castrovilli, Torres, Aravina, Basic, Nepan, Miranchuk, Berg, Barco, Cavallina, Andreev, Uadrego, Bergvall, and Curtis and Esteval. That's my list. If you want to download this list, it will be on the Patreon. If you want to see 100 bargains in one video, you're going to need to comment it down below. Leave a like on the video if this has been useful. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. But most importantly, have a lovely rest of your day. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.